And I want to be serious for a moment and talk about some of the things that we're up against on the planet. Honorable Speaker, you look at these agriculture land uses in changes that are being proposed in Bill 24, to look at them in the proper context, I believe you need to look through a global and then a political lens. Let's look at the future situation and the demands on agriculture lands worldwide as impacted by population growth. Global human population growth currently is around 81 million people annually, or 1.2% growth annually of the world's population. The global population has grown from 1 billion in the 1800s to more than 7 billion people today. Currently, on this planet, there's roughly 2 children born every second. Think about this, Honorable Speaker, and the need for food and for agriculture land in the context of what you're about to hear. 2 children born every second, about 200,000 children every day. It's expected the population will keep growing to reach 11 billion people by the end of the century. Currently, 1 in 8 people in the world do not have enough food to eat. The UN says that 870 million people, many of them children, will go to bed hungry and suffering from chronic hunger. Given these realities, Honorable Speaker, we know that we must think globally, but we also need to take action both locally and provincially. And that action, I think, means further protecting the agriculture land reserve and not making it easier for development, as Bill 24 will most certainly do. We know if we damage our ecosystems, we will ultimately damage ourselves, our communities, and our province. Certainly, we know that through Bill 24, we are letting our guard down on agriculture land. And once this land is developed, it will be gone before our very eyes, Honorable Speaker. You know, years ago, my grandfather, Amund Obadiah Routley, who farmed in Rosetown, Saskatchewan, he used to say, "Buy land, they're not making any more of it." And you know, he was right, Honorable Speaker. One only has to look at what's happened to land values in British Columbia over the decades to see that as land becomes more and more scarce, more pressure will be put on communities and our provincial government to develop and bulldoze agriculture land. And I believe Bill 24 is one of those pieces of legislation that's designed to help those who want to bulldoze our agriculture land. They're certainly not thinking about the folks who want to grow and produce food and help feed our children and our grandchildren, Honorable Speaker. If this government was really thinking about families, they would be helping. Would they be helping to bring in the bulldozers, or would they set the table for future generations of British Columbians with actions that protected agriculture and enhanced agriculture land? And you know, we know through the money that they haven't spent to support agriculture. The facts are there for all to see that this government is the worst in Canada at supporting farming. They haven't done anything to really help farmers and deal with the fact that there's a generational change, that land has become more and more expensive, that there is more and more loss of land every year, even with the system that we have today that they're going to kind of streamline and modernize. We've heard they're going to modernize it, which is another code word, Honorable Speaker, through their jiggery-pokery ways to shovel more land out the door and have more. And I just can't hardly wait to see their actions, because I know what the first ones will be is giving more stuff away. It certainly won't be making things better for our farmers or for future British Columbians. We know that all the key reasons that the land reserve was brought in back in 40 years ago, it was to try to slow down the unfettered development and loss of agricultural land, Prior to that, we were losing something like 6,000 hectares was being lost every year. And now it's been reduced and slowed down, but it's not stopping. Under the social credit government, it was golf courses being introduced in huge numbers on agricultural land. And while I like golf, I don't like the idea that we were losing some of the best growing sites in the planet to golf courses. And I often think, even when I play that golf course up in Lake Cowichan, that looks very much like agriculture land to me. I think about those folks in the world that would just die for a piece of land like that to grow vegetables on. You know, I think about that, and I think about every time I drive through the little town of Duncan, and I drive down Dingwall Street where I grew up. We moved there in 1952. And there I was, 2541 Dingwall Street with almost an acre of land. We had plum trees in the back. We had apple trees. We had this beautiful garden, just chock-a-block full of vegetables. I must say I hated to eat it, but I really enjoyed all of the preserves that we used to have. We had our root cellar, and as a young boy, I still remember going in and out of that root cellar and getting beets and all of the wonderful things. We had cucumbers. The list went on and on of all of the things that were saved in there. We were able to keep potatoes a very long time till they had these huge things growing out of them that I didn't really care for. And anyway, it was a wonderful time. I can still remember the smell, because that root cellar had something like 3 or 4 feet of sawdust in the walls and in the ceilings, and it was amazingly cool in there in the summertime to go into the root cellar. But now that is all paved, Honorable Speaker, and it's apartment buildings. And I think back about how all those beautiful plums that we had, buckets full of plums, we had all that beautiful fruit. Crab apples, I bought crabapple jelly at the local market, and I still have yet to find crabapple jelly like my mother used to make. It was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. We had these big king apples with lines of stuff through them that almost tasted like wine. They were so good. It was awesome. And again, when you think back on that, it just makes you want to cry, thinking about all that land production use. And that happened all up and down that street, because it used to be that was all good agricultural land, and we had wonderful produce, and people, I think, tried to live off the land more back in that era. And certainly folks from that grew up in the generation of the 1930s, like my family did, they understood the value of having a bit of farmland and growing crops and putting up preserves and living off the land. And now we're so used, Honorable Speaker, to we'll get it from California, or we'll get it from Washington or Idaho or whatever. We can just develop it. And that's what a lot of these folks, I think, are thinking. It's very sad indeed. We humans have to quit wasting so much and polluting so much.